What's up, guys? Josh Lau here with TheCardGuyz, and today we're going to be talking about the brand new card Emboldened Blade. Emboldened Blade is a zero-cost blue pitch warrior action that blocks for 3. It comes in the Majestic rarity, and it says turn a face-down card in any arsenal face-up. If it is a defense reaction, destroy it, and your next weapon attack this turn gets +1. Go again. This is a card that is very, very likely to become part of the resource base of Dawnblade-based Dorinthia decks going forward. As for the other decks, or for the other heroes, I'm not exactly sure about the impact. Bolton really loves yellow cards, and he likes light cards. The Decimator Axe build may or may not be able to find a slot for this, but even if they can find a slot for this, they may not want to use it. And Kasai decks you generally don't have to deal with that many D-reacts in Blitz. So this is very, very likely to be just for Dawnblade Dorinthia, but it is going to be an important addition to the Warrior Arsenal. So this is a card that is going to be very, very difficult to use because you have to predict or anticipate based on your opponent's deck build and their play patterns, whether or not they have a D-reactant arsenal. But the good thing is that you don't have to be right all the time. We'll go into some EV calculations later, and I'll give you guys rough percentages of how often you need to be right. But the TLDR is that this card existing gives a lot of implicit value to the Dorinthia deck because it creates some indirect pressure. Anytime that they arsenal D-react, it has to be going through their mind that if the Dorinthia draws Emboldened Blade, gives them a look in the eye, gets a good read, that they have a D-reactant arsenal, that they could play this and they could be, in a much, much worse defensive position. Anyways, let's talk a little bit more about some specific points. All right, so the strength of your opponent will determine how strong this card is, and in general, the stronger that your opponent is, the stronger that this card will be, because good opponents often anticipate or they understand what your deck is trying to do, and most Dorinthia decks are trying to set up a large turn. That's how they can get value, that's how they can get a counter, that's how they can snowball the game. And good opponents will keep a D-reactant arsenal. They will evaluate the threat of your turn, and they will react accordingly. One of the biggest level up moments I had very, very early playing the game was I was playing Dorinthia versus Ira. This is a very, very long time in Hong Kong. Shout out to Alan Lau, because this was Alan Lau did this to me. And I went for a turn, and I broke through. And I was like, sweet. He must have not had a D-react. Well, the next turn, I go for a big turn, and he shuts me down with a D-react from Arsenal, and I'm like, wait, why did you play that the other turn? Well, it made a lot of sense to not play it because my turn wasn't very, very threatening, right? And this was one of the biggest level up moments, is that a good opponent is not going to play a D-react on a middling turn. Especially if they only have 3 copies of like Sink Below, they're going to hold it for a big turn, right? And this is something that I've learned over time. Anyways, experienced Dorinthia players generally know when you have a D-react, but in the past, we basically just had to get it out of the way, right? The most extreme example was, I remember in Blitz, an Oldhim fusing his Oakenold with Pulse of Eisenloft, and then arsenaling the Pulse of Eisenloft, and I was like, all right, well, this is this is really, really tough, right? Based on body language, based on play patterns, it's very, very easy for me to deduce whether or not you have a D-react in Arsenal. I may not know which D-react it is, and it might not even be an actual D-react. It could be something like Sand Cover or Oasis Respite, but in general, we know that you have a D-react there. And now we have some counterplay to that, which is very, very nice. All right, let's talk about some EV calculations. All right, guys, so I mentioned something at the very beginning. I said that you don't have to be correct 100% of the time for this card to be good. So roughly the value of a card is worth 3. So if you block with Emboldened Blade, you're going to get 3 value out of it. If you play Emboldened Blade, the value that you could get out of this could be 0. If you play it and they don't have a D-React in Arsenal, you don't even get a weapon buff, right? But if you do correctly guess that they have a D-React, the value of the D-React is 4, and then you get a +1 to your weapon, so you'll get a value of 5, right? And so basically the calculation comes out to you need to be correct 60% of the time for this to be worth 3 value. Now, obviously there's some value from knowing what your opponent's arsenal is. Against certain decks, flipping a face-up card or face-down card face-up is useful. But in general, this is you don't get much value from that. It's possible you also like flip over an Oasis Respite or a Sand Cover, so maybe that's it's not exactly 0 value if you miss, but close to 0 value, right? But that's okay. It's because the value that you obtain from being correct is much higher than 3. You just need to be correct a portion of the time, right? So roughly against the 0 for 4 D-Reacts, sink below Fate Foreseen, you just need to be correct 60% of the time. Now against stronger D-Reacts like Unmovable, Staunch Response, stuff like that, you don't even need to be right that percentage of the time, which is quite nice. This is a card that is actually better against Guardian than against the general field. All right, so let's talk about some potential issues with this card. I've been, talking about all the great things about this card, but there are some things that when I looked at it a little bit closer, there's a couple things that potentially could be an issue, right? The first is that this is a card that doesn't synergize with the Decimator Great Axe at all. That is a style of deck that has become much more prominent these days, and this is a card that you don't really want to be playing this out with the Great Axe. In fact, you might actually be helping certain decks by playing this, because if they, for some reason, stuck like Staunch Response in their arsenal, they're going to have to pay for that to get it out, right? So there's no synergy there, but there is some indirect synergy in that because of the existence of Emboldened Blade, because of the existence of Great Axe, people are less likely to bring in a ton of D-Reacts, which, makes it easier for Dawnblade to operate, makes it a bit easier for the Decimator Axe to, fatigue people, either through fatigue through damage, which is the way that Decimator typically wins, or fatigue through deck damage, right? Or through just running them out of cards, literally, right? The second thing that I think is a little bit of a larger potential issue is that if you think about the common play patterns in Dorinthia, right? If you go for a large turn with Dorinthia and you break through their defenses, you strip their whole hand, and you still break through and you get a counter, so that generally involves like something like Singing Steel Blade, Twinning Blade, Overpower, Route, something like that, right? So the next turn you have full tempo and you draw this card. Well, if you broke through the previous turn, they probably don't have a D-reacted arsenal, right? Because if they had a D-reacted arsenal, they would have played it to try to stop and prevent your breakthrough turn, right? So it's a little bit counterintuitive there. Also, this card is obviously fairly bad against Warmonger's Diplomacy. You would rather have a card like Blue Out for Blood, Blue Overpower, Blue Iron Song Response, Blade Flash, stuff like that, right? Because those are attack reactions, right? And this is an action. So this does make you a little bit more susceptible to Warmonger's Diplomacy. Small drawback there. All right, so what is the TLDR summary? The TLDR summary is that there's a very low opportunity cost for sticking a couple copies of this card in your deck. Is this a 3 of? Probably not. But is this a 1 or 2 of? Almost assuredly it is, right? The only issue is that this card requires you to have a very strong read on what your opponent has been doing. So you have to pay attention to how long their arsenal card has been sticking around, whether or not they have been responding to things. Like, for example, if an Icelander player is holding their arsenal for 2 turns, it's either CLF or it's sink below, right? That's generally, the heuristic there, right? You have to also understand how decks are traditionally built. So decks like Phi and Lexi, they're not running D-Reacts against you, right? So you just have to understand that there are going to be situations where this card is basically a titanium bubble, right? But this card does have a lot of potential and a lot of indirect pressure on the opponent, because anytime they stick a D-React in Arsenal, there is a threat that you play Emboldened Blade and blow it up, right? Overall, I think this card is a great addition to the Warrior Arsenal. A little bit sad to see that it is predominantly just for Dorinthia, but it does have Helmetless Dory on the card, so it makes sense that it is more for Dory than for the other warriors. Anyways, I'm looking forward to playing with this new card in the upcoming Bright Light set. This will be part of the expansion slot, so you'll find this at the back of the pack. Anyways, thanks to LSS for giving a wonderful spoiler to us, and I hope that you guys will be able to blow up a lot of D-Reacts with this card in the coming months. All right, guys, this has been Josh Lau with TheCardGuyz. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Okay. Long has Warrior waited for a rival to glint the Quicksilver. Long have we waited for a blue block 3.
Have you?
Oh, wait, what?
Until all the blue cards block 3?
You're the one that was bragging about how your entire deck blocks for 3.